It's only the office. Hello. Okay. Hi, everyone. We're having way too much fun here kicking off the Google Hangout. I'm here with Kimberly Gauthier. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Hey, from Keep the Tail Wagging, and I'm Carol Bryant from the internet. I'm with BlogPaws and Phytos of Reality, and we are here to dispel the myths, including the ones I have myself, with Google Analytics. Kimberly is well known to so many of you in the blogosphere. She's an awesome dog blogger, great pet mom, and sometimes speaks in a code language that even I do not understand. So, welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. We're actually going to be talking, like I said, about Google Analytics, and one of the questions that I got in advance of this chat was, how am I supposed to get over my fear of Google Analytics? I don't even know where to start. I know it's important to track my numbers, but the way Google changes things, now we're into Panda and all these algorithms. Number one, how do we get over our fear of at least getting involved?
One thing that I had to do is forget all of that. The
Okay.
panda, the penguin, I don't know what it means. What I do know is it doesn't apply to us.
Okay.
That type of stuff applies to the niche bloggers. And in our world, niche means I write about dog nutrition. There's an
Hmm.
entire other world of bloggers who they just do sort of like Amazon.com review blogs, and they're highly heavy affiliate linking blogs. And that is what Google is trying to prevent. People who are making $10,000 a month with affiliate links. And that's what those penguin and panda updates are for, because they're the ones that are getting hit. Their income is being, sliced in half. Their page ranks are dropping because when you look at their content, it's usually, I shouldn't say usually, for some of them, it's taken straight from review sites. So it's like taking everything on an Amazon.com page, putting it into a blog post and publishing it. So
Okay.
it's really not quality content. We, in our community, we write quality content. So don't worry about that. Just get on the site and start clicking around. And I think that what I did is I just started becoming familiar with
Okay.
what it did because it is intimidating.
So you just jumped in. So you
Yeah.
just okay. And you and I were talking a little bit before the hangout, and you said you wish you had started in with Google Analytics 3 years ago. So for folks who aren't into it yet, or they're intimidated by it, or they're afraid of it, what made you switch? Why did you start getting in? Uh-oh, I think we froze. Did we lose Kimberly? A little bit on our chat. Not sure if Kimberly's on, or if you can hear me, Kim. We're talking about Google Analytics and getting in over our fears of Google Analytics. Um, if anyone can hear me, I'm Carol Bryant, and that's what we're talking about. So Google Analytics is something that's on the back end of our blogs. It's something that we're following our numbers on. And Kimberly, do we have you back?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
Yeah,
That
I
was
think we just lost you temporarily. Let's go back to where we were talking about how you actually got over your fear. What made you get into Google Analytics?
well, I realized that I had gotten to a point where I felt like I should be further along than what I was. And someone was kind enough to give me a free SEO tutorial, and they were asking me, why aren't you in Webmaster Tools? And I thought I was, but I wasn't. And that is when I actually started dinking around with it. And someone sent me some custom reports. These are things that you can Google
Mhm.
Analytics custom reports and get a lot of them that you upload to your analytics. And it makes it a lot easier to look at what you're doing. And so I started looking at what are my most popular pages.
Mhm.
And then I wanted to know how could I make them better.
Mhm.
And so I had probably a list of 10 popular blog posts that people were visiting daily. And I went in and cleaned them up by started adding header codes, so the H2 code, to make the headers pop out for Google when they're doing the ranks. And I started adding affiliate links. And with one of my posts, within less than 72 hours, I made over $200 in sales. So not commission,
Wow.
sales, simply
Wow.
because I paid attention to that post. And when I saw that happen, of course, a monster was created.
Well, yeah, dollar signs are always great, especially when it's something you love doing. And with Keep the Tail Wagging, that's what you're doing. So for people who we're talking Google Analytics and they're thinking, what in the world is a Google Analytic? Just what is it before
It
we get
is
further?
basically it's Google's way of telling you who's visiting your site, how long they're hanging out, and what they're visiting, what they
Hmm.
don't like. So, our bounce rate. For bloggers, the bounce rate is something different than what everyone else is used to. So we're naturally going to have a high bounce rate. Not everyone, but I think most of us. And that's usually because people are coming directly to one blog post, reading it, and then they bounce away. And
Okay.
Google, the reason why, which I hate that they do this to us, but they want someone to come to a blog post, click on it, read it, and then click on another blog post. And that is something that if people just clicked on another link on our site, it
Hmm.
would help our bounce rate go down.
Oh, okay.
That's not really how our sites are built. Our sites are built for usually, people don't usually come to our sites and browse unless they're brand new to it.
Hmm.
There
Hmm.
is a way to change that, and that's through internal linking. You
Hmm.
can do it through the Word. Well, I know WordPress has it. I'm sure Blogger does too. But the related posts
Yep.
type of things, you can do all kinds of things. But ultimately, most of us, if your bounce rate is over 50%, don't worry about it. Mine is over 70%.
Okay.
So I don't worry about it too much. But that's what the analytics is telling you. And although I think that we should blog for ourselves because it's our love and our hobby, if we want to be successful, and success doesn't necessarily mean make money, it just means if we want to grow an audience, we have to make our readers a priority. And Google is going
Absolutely.
to help us do that by showing us what they like to read, what they don't like to read. It's going to show us like what keywords are people Googling that brings them to our site. So we can
Absolutely.
decide if do we want to write more about this or should we expand on it. I have a blog post about why dogs eat grass that I wrote probably 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and that gets a lot of traffic. So I wrote an updated post recently, and
Hmm.
those are the type of things that'll give you ideas. And you can still be natural in
Hmm.
how you write your blog, but Google Analytics just gives you a direction to go in, so that
Right.
you're it just guarantees a little bit more success, I think.
So that's the thing for me. I embraced it about a year ago. And as much as I like to joke about it, you're spot on. If you want this to be a business, you need to love what you're doing or at least really like it a lot because especially someone like yourself, you're doing it often. And it flows more naturally. And you don't need to write like an SEO robot. I know Yvonne is sitting there saying, yay, that this is true. But coupled with Google Analytics, let it be your friend. And speaking of friends, that's something you put on the blog talk. I know folks who are watching this back in the blog talk group in the BlogPaws community today, you were kind enough to give us all a cheat sheet based
Mhm.
on some of the things you were talking about before and the headers and that kind of thing. So if anyone's out there and they're listening and thinking, I have no idea what she just said, just be in the BlogPaws community. Kim, you were, like I said, you were kind enough to put that cheat sheet there. All right, I know that Tom has in the background, and he's got a question he'll be queuing up soon. So while he does that, how are you using Google Analytics to manage your blog? I know you just gave us a hint, but any other tips?
I'm going through and I'm looking at like slow loading pages and cleaning those up because this I'm coming up on my 30-year blog anniversary. So a lot
Yeah.
of the blog posts that I wrote my first year, I mean, to be honest, are pretty crappy. And so if they aren't doing well analytics wise, Analytics is going to tell me that, and I can go back and clean them up. So
Oh,
I'm
no.
adding nice photography to it. I am, adding the headers because a lot of times when people read our blog post, they're in a hurry. So I'm giving them an opportunity to skim it to make it a little easier for them to read it. People like list, people like headers and break out in paragraphs so they can just go through and if they want to come back or if they want to read a certain section, it goes to that. Another thing I'm looking at are blog posts where people bounce right off of it. That just means that they found this link, it's not what they want. So I need to go in and figure out what did I do wrong here because sometimes we can write a title, but the blog post doesn't necessarily match the title. And
Hmm.
I guess a good example, I'm just making this up, is if I wrote a blog post of, 5 reasons why dogs eat grass, but it
Hmm.
was a cutesy blog post, but someone actually is having a trouble with their blog or their dog eating grass all the time. So they
Mm-hmm.
thought they were coming to some place that was going to give them answers. So maybe I can keep it cutesy, but then add in a little more information from veterinarians and stuff to help them.
Okay, so you might have written a post, say, 2 years ago, and maybe it was cute at the time, or let's go 3 years ago, about your dog eating grass. So I think that's really important to reiterate. Then we can update that on the back end and let Google and have Google Analytics work for us, fix that post so that then we're helping our
Yeah.
overall blog content.
Yes. And
Wow.
I'll do that and then reshare it. Because, I mean, if you think about it, you know how Facebook isn't letting people see our posts? So why
Yes.
don't we reshare everything? We can reshare stuff as much as we want to now. So that's the bonus to Facebook not letting people see our stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I will go back. And of course, you know, we have new fans today than we had 3 years ago. So I
Yes.
can reshare all of that stuff, but I can even reshare stuff from a week or 2 weeks ago. I,
Amazing.
you know, new eyes are going to see it.
Exactly. Well, speaking of new eyes, we have a question for you from Lucy Landisberg. She wants to know, have you used the brand interest segment to measure engagement with your blog, and what are your thoughts if you have used it?
I have not used that yet. I'm sticking to cleaning up my blog at this point.
Hmm.
But I have started using the demographic section of my
Okay.
blog.
Yeah,
And
tell us about that. What is the demographic section, and why is that important?
that's telling me basically where my readers are coming from, you know, the male female mix of my readership, what their age is. And these are the type of things that for right now, it's more of a surprise because I actually expected my readership to be 90% female, 10% male, because that's what my Facebook following is. But it's
Hmm.
actually 70-30. And still heavily female, but I didn't realize I had 30% of men
Wow.
coming to my site. That was pretty impressive.
Men have dogs too, huh?
And also, of course, for me, the majority of my readers are coming from America. But the thing about it is that, for instance, if I found out that a real big chunk of my readership was in Australia or the UK, then I would start working with brands in that area or trying to find, you know, whenever I share a link to a US company, I would try to find a comparable UK or Australian company for those readers. But those are the type of things that you can do. And again, you don't want to allow others or strangers to be the sole focus of what you're doing with your blog, but it does help to make your blog a better experience. I mean, if you think about, for instance, Amazon,
Hmm.
even though Amazon gets a bad rap for a lot of people, the reason why I go to Amazon for everything is because they have everything that I need there.
Hmm.
So if in your realm of what you write about, if you can just make it a lot easier, your blog will become the first place people will go because they know they'll get the information from you.
Got it. Okay, so there's folks who are listening, such as Terry with Coco the Couture Cat, and she wants to know, all right, I put the code on my blog. Well, actually, she's afraid. There are people who have, but she's afraid to even put it there. Um, where do you start? I mean, you have folks who are listening to this who have been blogging for a while, but a lot of folks have either they're just starting out or they're blogging and they've never even touched Google Analytics. So where should they start? Do you want to speak a little bit to that? What do you type in? I want to do Google Analytics. What do you type in, and how do we get that code going?
Well, depending upon if you're Blogger or WordPress. So I'm going to start with the WordPress.org users because
Okay.
that's what I do. If you are brand new and you are freaked out, which I completely understand, start with a plugin. Get the highest rated plugin that has great reviews, and you can just put the code in there. That will save you so much time and get you to a point where you do feel comfortable of hard coding the code into your site on your own or finding someone to help you do it.
Okay.
For everyone, we are gifted to be in a fantastic community of very experienced bloggers. So reach out to people. And I don't want to call anyone out because I don't want to make anyone committed to helping other people with Google Analytics. But I have names popping in my head, and we know them. There are people who are designing, they're coding. They're the people who, when we were asking for feedback on sites, they were giving the very complicated responses of things
Mhm.
that we do.
Mhm.
Those are the people that you need to reach out to. There's also a tremendous amount of resources that are free. There's YouTube, there's the Google Analytics forums, there's the WordPress .org forums. There's a ton of information that'll give you pictures, show you videos of exactly what to do. When you look for these things, pay attention to the date, because a tutorial from 2009 isn't going to show you the screen prints of 2014, so it can get confusing.
And that's the same way with a plugin. Wouldn't you agree that you kind of need to look for the date, but also the update dates? Because if it's not been updated for, since the dinosaurs came home, yeah, it might not be a good idea to use that plugin.
Right. I think one plugin that is very highly rated is the Yoast plugin.
Yes.
He's the person that does the WordPress SEO plugin as well. You can never go wrong with those. But, definitely don't be afraid. Don't rush into it. If you're nervous about it, it's okay. That means that you'll take extra time to make sure you do what you need to do and do it correctly. If you are hard coding that code into your site, what I recommend is opening up a Word document or some type of word processing document. Copy the code from that screen over into that word processing document.
Yes.
And put the code in, because if for some reason you do something wrong, you have what was originally there saved, and you can just copy over it, and everything's going to be great.
Or have someone who knows what they're doing do that for you, so that if you're afraid of breaking it, and many of us are very good at breaking our websites, as I said earlier, you sometimes speak in a language I think, what is she talking about? But it's a good thing because you know what you're talking about. So MK Clinton, Melissa Clinton has a question, and she said there's HTML that tracks sex and race and so forth, that kind of thing. And the only thing she's using Google AdWords for is keywords. She doesn't know where she's supposed to be getting keywords, how to put it in. Help. She says, Kimberly, help. What
oh my gosh. Okay, so I hate when I'm about to do something that is really wrong. And I'm going to give advice that's probably going to be disagreed with by other people who know way more than I do. But this is what I do, and it's easy. I don't use that free Google keyword tool, and the reason why is because it's too cumbersome. I go the easy route, and whenever I want to, and I'm just thinking about when you're coming up with the title of a blog post. So, for instance, I have one in my drafts called, how to stop a dog's diarrhea. And I don't know if that's the wording of it, but that's what I'll do is I'll type that into Google to see the suggestions that it gives me. So what are the average person typing? And I'll take from one of those suggestions what my title is going to be.
I think Kimberly might have frozen a little bit, but what she's saying until we get her back is really important, because your title, above all, Google Analytics on the back end, putting the right title in is so important. So today, for example, we're in December in 2014. There's a blog post on blogpaws.com, and we're talking about categories, and we're talking about...
Am I back?
Did we get you back? Yes, we're talking about title.
When did I cut off that?
Yes.
Dog diarrhea.
Yeah, dog diarrhea was, I think, our last thing we heard. I was talking about
but
title is so important.
You can still write freely. The beautiful thing about the updates that Google is doing is at the same time they're making their algorithms so much better that we don't have to have these crazy unnaturally written blog posts that have keywords strewn throughout. We can write naturally. Where we need to have those keywords is in the title. So how do I get rid of my dog's diarrhea? Google's going to understand dog and diarrhea in there and send it to everyone who's Googling that. And then I have it in the H2 headers, and those are basically going to be the titles of each paragraph, and they're going to be bold and bigger. And when the Google bots come and read your site, they're going to go, oh, okay, this blog post about dog and diarrhea, so I'm going to send it to this group of people who are Googling that.
Right. So, and what speaks to that also, you were talking about titles. So if I'm in a blog hop, and a lot of bloggers do blog hops, myself included, should I put something in like, oh, blog hop, Tasty Tuesday, great post here? Is that a great title, and is Google Analytics going to help me there?
Google Analytics will basically send that post to other people who are looking for Tasty Tuesday.
Okay.
Which are going to be other bloggers. Or anyone who outside of the blogging community who knows what that means.
Hmm.
I think a bigger draw would be Thoughtful Thursday because that seems to be picked up by more than the bloggers.
Hmm.
That's a tough one because you only have so many characters to get Google's attention. I think it's 68.
Yeah.
And, I get that you want to be part of the blog hop and it's Wordless Wednesday.
Hmm.
In my opinion, I think it's enough to put Wordless Wednesday in the body of a post,
Right.
but use that title space to do something that's going to get someone's attention.
Hmm.
Because as an average reader, what would make me click on Wordless Wednesday, especially when I see 1,000 posts that say Wordless Wednesday, but there's nothing else to tell me what this is about?
Right. Right.
Even if it's just, pictures, which that usually is, maybe it's cute puppy loves the snow. That
Right.
I'm gonna click on. But
Right.
Wordless Wednesday, I'm just sort of like, I don't know what that is. That's a virus.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And that's the kind of and this is the sort of thing that why Google Analytics is so helpful. If you want it to work for you, you have to work for it, in my opinion. And if you're feeding it mm, empty calories with, just saying, no pun intended, but Tasty Tuesday or, just Wordless Wednesday, you're not going to appeal to the average pet parent who's searching it for how to cure your dog's diarrhea, for
Right,
example. To speak to,
exactly.
we're back to that. But okay, so Lucy Landisberg, we have 10 minutes left, and she's asking, and this is a really good one. So you've published your post and your slug, and the slug, you can talk a little bit about that, needs to be revised. It doesn't have good keywords. You put something in and you're just thinking, yikes, I didn't do that the right way. Should you go ahead and revise it? And is Google going to slug you for that, so to speak?
Okay, so I have done this, and this is
Yep.
what I do. I leave the URL. I don't change any of that. Sometimes you can go in and change the title without changing the URL. I
Hmm.
leave the URL the same. What I do is I go and I clean up the blog post, and I try not to put too much worry into things like this simply because I really don't want to become a slave to SEO.
Hmm.
I I don't want that to become what my blog is about. But I do know what it means when you go back and you look at a blog post and it's like no one's going to find this. Some
Hmm.
of them are just a loss. Maybe sometimes I write blog posts that are basically just for other bloggers.
Hmm.
When we do our annual, I can't remember what it's called now, but I think it's in January, February where we do the pet blogger blog
Yeah.
hop. I'll do
Yeah.
that. That's for other bloggers. So I'm not too terribly worried about SEO for that. But if I go back and look at past posts and realize I could have really done a much better job, I just
Hmm.
reword it in areas. I don't completely rewrite it, but I just reword it in areas and it will get found a lot better. And I've seen that happen. And it's amazing. Probably within a week, you'll notice that a post is ranking a little bit better.
Okay, so we could probably spend hours talking about Google Analytics. I mean, there are entire courses in, this sort of thing, but how often are you checking it? How often should someone check Google Analytics?
I do it once a week. And the reason why I do it once a week is because one time I accidentally put my code in twice. What this does is it drops your bounce rate down to 3%. That sounds great.
I was there when that happened.
Yeah.
I remember when that happened.
It also increases your visitors. Like, I don't know if it doubled or tripled them, but basically for a month or two, my site was looking fantastic and it was wrong. And Google will eventually pick up on the fact that something's not right here and send you a note. But I was bragging about it on Facebook and a friend of mine was like, yeah. And so when I went to take the extra Google code out, for some strange reason, I took them both out. So I wasn't tracking at all, and I didn't realize it until I just happened to check it a week later. So now, because of that, I check it each week just in case something happens where, maybe there's a theme update.
Mm-hmm.
This is a WordPress thing. If I do anything and I just forget to put my code in, I want to know right away that, oh my gosh, I forgot my code. I need to fix that. And
Right.
since I'm really getting into really utilizing Google Analytics like I've never done before,
Mm-hmm.
I set aside a day, just a few hours, where I just go through and I clean up blog posts because the most trafficked blog post, the slowest loading blog post, the ones that people are bouncing off of, that adjusts and changes over time as you fix blog posts. So I'm constantly going back. I have a whole new set to work with, and I'm just cleaning up my blog. And it's a fun, cool thing to do, and it's a great way for me to become more familiar with
Oh
Google
yeah.
Ads.
Oh yeah. And so cleaning up your blog, that includes huge images, images that you didn't compress. Am I right? When you say clean up a blog?
Yeah, well, one thing that I found is I have old blog posts where I have several images in them. It's like, do you really need all these images because it's making the post load slowly?
Hmm.
And so I get rid of them, or the images aren't great. Another thing I found is that when it comes to Pinterest, since that's my #2 referring site, you need to make those images pinnable. And one way to do that is to write on them. So I'm replacing them with stock photography that I can write on, and just cleaning that up as well.
Tom would love if you did a new post updating this topic so that folks out there who are feverishly trying to take notes or stopping and pausing this would be able to have a little bit of insight from you. So that's his request. But now Karma Pudale is saying that she did a post, hi Karma, for Wordless Wednesday, and she just called it My Beauty. And it was a photo of her dog, and she said that got her so many hits. Want to speak to that a little bit?
And it could simply be because I know that Karma has just a really good following.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like bloggers like Karma, Karen is another one, Groovy Golden Doodles is another one. They are attracting a certain sect of people who are loyal. They're going to check in with that blog, and they're checking them out, and they know what they're posting. But for those of us who are new to blogging, or just are new to optimizing our blog and haven't built that following, we may not have that same success. So it's hit or miss, because I know, for instance, Karma has a really low bounce rate. I'm not surprised, because it would not surprise me that her fans go to her blog and just hang out for a bit and click around to catch up.
Right. Yeah, she definitely has poodle groupies, so I'm sure she knows that. Okay, so Norman Strodock, and I really hope I'm saying his name right, he says that after spending thousands of dollars, and he's gotten absolutely nowhere, he wishes there was a place. Now I'm saying BlogPaws, and only because I've been there so many times to the conference. He wishes there was a place he could come, find all this information. You're a walking encyclopedia with all this, Kimberly. I know you'll be at the conference. Somebody's just starting out, or they've been through the mill with all of this. Beyond this chat, where do they go?
Okay, so this is a good one. This is something that I do. So people seem to think that I'm like this blogging genius. Not. I belong to a local WordPress community. I go to WordCamp every year. A lot of cities, look it up, a lot of cities host a WordCamp every year. If you go to meetup.com, you can find blogging networking groups or WordPress networking groups. Those are really great places to go and connect with people of all different experience levels. Once a month, I meet with a group of women who are bloggers, designers, and developers, and we just ask each other questions. Sometimes I'll get together with someone at a Starbucks, and we'll just sit together and work it out together for a few hours until we understand something.
So if you're all over the world, or you're in different parts of the country, or you don't have access to that, one of the things that I'm suggesting, just because you're such a wealth of information, and BlogPaws, the community has so much, send them to the chat that you started, the actual thread that you started, just as a launch point with that great cheat sheet that you put out there today.
And this is a really amazing community. It's like a lot of my very best friends I met through BlogPaws. So I have no problem picking up the phone. I have been on the phone with people to talk about all things dogs and all things blogging. I mean, network and connect with people. You'd be amazed at how many people will sit on the phone with you for an hour to just talk and become familiar. It's sort of hard to teach someone something over the phone. Yeah. But it's still something. And definitely come to the conference. I mean, one thing that I want to do this year is set aside with our computers at a table and just work at stuff and show each other what we're doing, because sometimes when you see it in front of you, it makes a little more sense. And when you're talking to someone face to face, it connects a little permanently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're winding down with 2 minutes, so I want to do 3 quick takeaways, not to put you on the spot, but winding down what we talk about. If you do nothing else, between 2 and 3 things you should be doing on Google Analytics. A, we know, get Google Analytics.
Yes.
Okay, then what?
So definitely check and look at your most trafficked blog post. And this will give you an idea of what people are coming to your blog to see. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have to start writing about other things. It just means that it'll give you a direction to go in, because maybe your blog is taking you in a direction you don't want to go. Okay. And then go back and look at the sites that people, or the blog posts that people are leaving really quick, and see what you can do to clean those up and make them a little more attractive to visitors.
Okay, great. I know what I'm doing over the Christmas break. So now that we know also, if anybody missed that, you can go back, you can look at blog posts you've done, you can clean them up, and you can get more favorably in the eyes of Google using the Google Analytics tool. So tell people where they could find you, Kimberly.
You can find me at keepthetailwagging.com. I'm at Facebook under the same name. I'm under Twitter as @thefurmom. And you can email me at kimberly@keepthetailwagging.com. Oh, and I'm on BlogPaws.
Oh, of course, yes, it is your BlogPaws. That's right. Okay, so for anybody who missed it, keepthetailwagging.com. Make sure you look at blogpaws.com. And for any of these tips, we're going to actually do a recap with a blog post on this too. So if you want to contribute to that, we would so appreciate it. And appreciate your time, and tell your pack thanks for lending their fur mom to us for the evening.
My pleasure.
And anybody, if you're still there are questions, we'll be taking them in the community, and also within this thread. There's a thread that goes alongside this video. So thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
All right.